Greetings all. I pray all is well. You know, my message is always changing the vibration of this planet with love, and what conversations can we have to assist in this process. So, this was very much about our emotions and how they fit into this conglomerate of chaos and destruction that we are presently living in. I say it the way, you know, my spirit's giving to me. If we don't control how we think and feel, if we don't control our emotions, the narrative that has been trying to control us is going to continue to do so from a perspective of like they don't want change. You know, back in the day, I was having a conversation with some of my sisters the other day, and we was talking about the, you know, we've been through a lot of systematic situations, and we're still living systematically through the destruction and through slavery and all of the things that they've created to keep us subjected to their rule or to undermine, right? But I remember very clearly one year I was on a, I want to say an ancestral walk, but we was going through, I was in Kentucky, and we was walking through a park, a trail, and they were saying that there were slaves that had hidden here and stuff like that walked this trail. And I was very clear when I heard they said that, you know, what they went through, we got to stop that type of fight, because we shouldn't have to go through that. What they went through that, so we didn't have to go through that. And I say we because I'm talking about the collective, okay? Because you know, that's another story. But there was very clear that, you know, there has to be another way. And it's funny, it's not funny, but a couple of days ago I read a story about a slave that was free, and he was a professor in Philadelphia, and then some kind of dynamics where the slave owner decided that he wanted his slaves back, his parents, but they were no longer there. But because he was a child of them, even though he was born into freedom, he was still technically owned by them. So they were saying he had to go back, but he shifted his everything and changed to become Ezra the Ox. Like he went undercover, so to speak. And it's a longer story, which I wish that they would make into a movie because it was brilliant. But at the end, he was like, when it comes to the system that is trying to destroy you, sometimes you have to have some patience. You can't fight them the way that they fight, because they're never going to be fair. They're never going to be honest. They're never going to be sincere. They're going to change the playbook every time you try and make a move. So you have to be more strategic. So in the strategy that you have is to get to know yourself, is to understand yourself, because in the clarity of understanding who you are and the power that you have as a human, that clarity is going to give you the moves that you need to make in order to overthrow and overcome the dynamics that are there to control you. Because right now, when you're in fight mode, you know what I mean, they've already set up the fight mode in a way that it's hard to break down their barriers. But when you're in a different mentality, because in that story that I read, the guy said, you know, sometimes it takes patience in order to get them, because at the end, he didn't only just get the person that, you know, bought him, but he got many other people and brought them down based upon his brilliance of his man. He had photographic memory and was able to photograph just by looking at her at these slave owners' books. He was able to log all the names, dates, numbers, and everything in order to give to the abolitionists, I think it is, and for them to go research all this and realize, oh yeah, the Northerners are playing in this game and reaping benefits because they're sending money to the South to gain money because they wanted to keep it in effect. So, you know, it was a big money thing. But anyway, but at the end, he was like, sometimes you have to take your time. And like I said, it took him 2 years of playing a dumb down, like, person that couldn't speak, was illiterate, didn't know nothing, but he was a professor that taught math. So, you know, you got to have some kind of brilliant mind to be able to, one, have a photographic memory, and to be able to teach the way he did in a university. right? And then went back to teaching after his spill of a few years of being caught up in the slavery space. So, and he was saying that, you know, you have to have patience. So, but anyway, going back to this, what the ancestors are saying, that we have to have the patience to understand ourselves. We have to have the patience to not just to understand ourselves, know the power that we have. And once we understand that there is a power that we have that is innate within all of us, that wisdom is going to give us, or that clarity of understanding stuff is going to give us the wisdom of how to overcome this and how to overthrow this and how to maneuver through this space. But when you can't fight fire with fire, and this is the thing that we keep saying, you have those that have the wisdom or the educational piece to be the spokesperson to speak their language, right? But then the rest of us that are not in politics, so to speak, still need to have an awareness about self so we can move accordingly. Because as it stands right now, you know what I mean, it's like, what is that saying? Power, I can't even remember, but it's almost like, you know what I mean, those who have power, right, will not let it go if they don't think that you're going to stop them, and they're going to keep it, and they're going to keep it. Was a quote by Frederick Douglass, yeah, it was a quote that he said, but it was a longer term, and my friend told me about it, and I thank her for that, because it changed my perspective about me and how I think and feel about myself. So and how I should respond to certain things, right? So this space here with the ancestors saying that we did what we did, we went through what we went through, not for you to have to keep going through it now. So there's got to be another way. But what they're saying, the only other way is, first of all, is for us to understand who we truly are and what powers that we have within us to be able to overcome some of the atrocities, the policies, and the diabolical crap that we've been subjected to for too long. You know, things are being exposed, people are being exposed. You know, this is a space where even racism, you'd think that racism, as much as it is kind of been underneath the surface, is coming up bright as day. You know what I mean? It's in everybody's faces, and it's almost like, because it is so apparent, those that used to be hidden with it, I don't care no more, because it's almost like there's power in numbers. You know what I mean? We're all good to let y'all know that we don't like you, and we want to maintain our space. So we have to be more strategic about how we maneuver through this space, because they will always trip up themselves. But we have to make sure that we're empowered with our own understanding of self, and not fight amongst each other, not degrade and undermine each other, because there's enough of that. We have to be very much more strategic and understanding of our abilities. And once we are, the clarity and the information to navigate these spaces will always be given. And we have to be understanding of that fact. And most of the time, you know what I mean, we go through the motions and deal with things as is, like there's no other way. But sometimes it takes patience to be aware of yourself, and sometimes going into yourself and understanding yourself, you'll be able to ask yourself questions, and the clarity will come to you about what your problems are, or the way to overcome those problems. You know what I mean? To release the attachment to the drama or the confusion, and the way forward will be given. But it takes some time, and you have to be patient with yourself and really understanding that that's what you want to do. And so as a collective, we all need to do that. So collectively, that unification will come about, because we're all on the same page. Anyway, I'm gonna leave it there. We love you. And you love me too. All right, take care. Have a blessed day. Peace out.